the Daily Ramble podcast.
Hello Hammers fans, David Moyes here and you're watching Claret and Booze. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And that is the last you're going to hear of David Moyes on this show, I promise. That's the, that's the end of it. Nice of him to do that little thing for us, though, wasn't it, Nigel?
Actually sounded like him.
Yeah. But yeah, we've got Nigel. Nigel went to Loch Ness with his brother, and this is the first time we've seen him since. It was a long trip, Nigel. How you been?
Yeah. It's been a busy year.
I know, mate. I know. Working away.
Yeah.
Thinking of money.
Yeah.
You got stuck in the traffic on the M25 on the Essex stretch today, which could become a common occurrence for West Ham fans in the future when they drive to matches. You never know. You never know. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, already there.
So look, what we're going to do today is we spoke about this the other day, but I brought in the expert, someone who knows an awful lot more than me about Golden Sullivan.
But he's on later, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I brought in too. So you're up to speed on everything to do with Golden Sullivan in terms of, when they bought the club, when they fucking bought the stadium, your protest. We'll talk about that as well. The lies, the deceit, and Gonzo's quite up to speed on the current situation as well. So that'd be good. So when Gonzo does join us later on, which will be around about 9:45. And that should be good. It should tie in well. Gary's going to dip in as well, I think, about 9:30. He's been doing some work, fitting a cooker down at his caravan in Harwich. That's what he's been doing. Yeah, so I'll tell you what, we'll crack on, Nige, because we're a little bit late. And you've got to be up early in the morning, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, I've got work tomorrow.
Yes, so you've got work tomorrow. I haven't. I can have a lay in. But look, you've heard the story, the outline story of this. So if I give a brief overview of what the conspiracy theory is, and that is the long con, being sold down the river. That is David Sullivan always having it in his mind when he got West Ham because, knew about the Olympics. So there was always going to be this white elephant of a stadium that was going to be there. Get his hands on that. With a view to, we know he likes a property deal. This is the thing with David Sullivan. He does. His business, his side business is property. He's got properties everywhere. We know that he enjoyed the property deal with Upton Park. So why do we think that he's going to stop there? We've got the land that is the stadium is sitting on. If we were to procure it for a decent amount, is said to be worth. I read earlier on between 3 and 4 billion. That's what that land is worth. It's worth a lot of money. But it would take a lot of money to do anything with it. That's the thing. Probably more money than he's got. So the conspiracy is that David Sullivan gave us all the hard sell to move us from Upton Park to sell us a dream to go to the Olympic Stadium, throttled the life out of the stupid deal that was too good to be true, that he managed to negotiate to the point where the stadium was in disrepair. It was already the taxpayer already paying through the nose for it, so it's going to apply more pressure on the LLDC, where eventually we might be in a situation where we could get it for a bargain deal. He buys it. Now he's got that land. What does he do? We've got a stadium in disrepair. Do we redevelop it and make it more of a football stadium? Do we repair it, or do we knock the fucker down, make the most of the land that it's sitting on, which is worth about 4 billion, and sod West Ham off to Freeport up in Tilbury Docks? So that's the theory. That's the theory anyway. Return us to the ironworks, Nige, because it's on the same stretch of river, isn't it? So it's quite close. That's the thing.
Well, I would argue that the London Stadium's probably on the same stretch of river. Actually,
I know.
Yeah. So,
but that's what they're going to go for. That's what they'll push if there is any truth in this at all, which we will find as time goes on. But look, so what we're going to do, we're going to start from the beginning, learn a little bit about Golden Sullivan, as if we don't know enough about him already. Their time at Birmingham City. So I've done a little bit of digging on them, and in 2005, after they suffered the disappointment of Birmingham not being awarded the Commonwealth Games because it was rumoured, Sullivan had spoken about it. I've seen press releases where he spoke about Birmingham getting. He always had this idea of getting his hands on a stadium, because there is always a white elephant stadium left over from games. That didn't happen. They didn't get that. So he obviously wanted to sell St Andrews. That didn't happen. But then in 2005, they partnered with the Las Vegas Sands Partnership, who was set to fully fund the build of a new 50,000 super-seater stadium in a new entertainment complex.
Yeah, multifunction.
Multifunction. But it was all pivoting on a super casino that that had to be signed off. So that was what Sullivan was pushing for. If they signed off on the casino, then this company would pay for the stadium to be built in that complex, and then Sullivan had a nice stadium that he could build flats on.
Yeah.
Didn't get signed off. The council didn't sign it off.
Not true.
No, not true. Well, they did sign it off.
No. It was part of a sort of tender bidding for who would get the super casino. And Birmingham didn't get it, much like they didn't get the Commonwealth Games that went to Manchester. Birmingham's bid failed in the casino bid.
Yeah, right, okay.
So the government were handing out a contract. I don't know if it went because Blackpool were definitely bidding for it. I don't know if there was somewhere in London as well that was bidding for it.
The article that I read, they said London had license for a casino, Blackpool and Manchester, they said, had license for a casino at that time.
Birmingham didn't.
Birmingham didn't. So that was what it was all pivoting on. He didn't get his own way. He didn't get his wicked way. They ended up selling up, kind of he lost heart at that point. Oh, can't sell the ground, can't build flats. So drove it into the ground, sold it to a lovely fella called, was it Carson Young?
Carson Young, an hairdresser's from Hong Kong.
Sold it to Carson Young, and then retrospectively got into a little bit of trouble with the authorities, didn't he, Nigel? Him and Brady for a period.
Well, Carson Young was obviously from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But it was sort of when Carson, he was actually at Birmingham. He attempted to, it was a weird thing. He attempted to buy Birmingham 2 or 3 years before he took full control.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, this is where it definitely gets a bit funny. He couldn't raise the funds. So, but he had enough to buy some shares. So he actually bought into Birmingham City, and he was there for about a year or two before he got the full money together to buy the full club off Gold and Sullivan.
Jesus.
But which makes you think, well, why did it take him so long? So there was, I think he got jailed in the end for money laundering back in Hong Kong.
What he did?
He did, yeah, Carson Young.
Right.
Because that's how he's lost. That's how he lost control of Birmingham City.
So what were there? Do you know anything about the court cases that Brady and Sullivan were kind of caught up in? Because that ran on for about a year, didn't it?
Not really the court cases. I researched in 2015 or a bit before that the deals that they did to try and get into the Commonwealth Stadium at Birmingham. And then the new multi-use venue, it's important to stress that that it was going to be an athletics and other sports stadium in Birmingham. And there was I found a great photograph of Brady standing in front of a mock-up model of everything. And when you look at, when you pick apart what they wanted to do, it was the blueprint for what they actually did.
Exactly. And not too long after that. So when did they sell up to Carson Young?
2000 and I think it was 2008 or early 2009.
All right, so they didn't have too long out of football then, did they? Because their opportunity came along to come along and be West Ham's saviours, Nigel. They saved us from going bust.
Yes, so
they are our saviours.
There were stories that they were looking at other clubs. Crystal Palace, they definitely looked at the books.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I remember going to a fans meeting, and a Crystal Palace fan did joke, he was quite pleased that Golden Sullivan hadn't bought Crystal Palace. But then, obviously, the club that they both loved and supported,
442 Green Street.
442 Green Street, and growing up in Cardiff, Sullivan only dreamed of owning West Ham. The West Ham United started to go through, the collapse of the Icelandic banking system and it meant West Ham's owners were bankrupt, and we were then taken over as a bad debt by a different bankrupt Icelandic bank.
Yeah.
And therefore the club had to be sold.
So in terms of them buying us, how much do you know what the deal was? How much debt did they absorb? How much did they buy us for? Was it a good deal? Well, obviously it was a good deal for them in the long run, but was it a case of them taking pity on West Ham and doing a charity case, or did they see the potential?
Well, it's strange because you sort of could look at it sort of along the lines of what Ratcliffe's done at Man United,
yeah.
Rather than buy a minority stake, though. So you had, I believe, 3 people bidding to buy the club, maybe 4. I think there was Tony Cotty's people, who I think may have been American, but they bowed out early. You had the Italian.
He loves a consortium. Tony
he does love a consortium, Cotty.
He does.
You had the Italian, I think his name was Chiellini, who ended up at Leeds and was barking mad.
Was that the referee?
No. That was
Chiellina.
Then you had the Tony Fernandez of Air Asia and Lotus. I think he bought Lotus cars as well.
Yeah.
And he was doing quite well with them. And then you had Golden Sullivan. Now, the thing about, if you look at the 2 serious 2 there were Fernandez and Golden Sullivan.
Yeah.
Golden Sullivan offer the best deal to the Icelandics, and they choose Golden Sullivan. But here's the strange thing. Fernandez wanted to buy 100% of West Ham.
Yeah.
That was his bid. Golden Sullivan only bought 50% of West Ham. The other 50% was still owned by the Icelandic bank.
Right.
Now, to do this, they are rumoured to have paid over £50 million, valuing West Ham at £100 million.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about where even to this day, that when
what was the thinking behind that? Was that capital? They didn't have the capital, or was that because they didn't want to take all the debt?
Well,
all of the debt on.
If you go back and look, I think it was probably didn't want to take all of the debt on. Why pay for 100% of it when you can take control of the football club and only pay 50%?
Yeah.
Also, part of the deal was quite how the money was made up. It's not really known because it became a private company, so there was no reason for it. They didn't have to go to the company's house and declare, how each other money was made up.
Yeah.
So it's rumored that they paid 50 million, but it's possible that when new shareholders buy the club, so if you take Trip Smith, pays 10 million to buy part of West Ham, has to pay in 10 million as well. Yeah. Now that's written into contracts. So it's fair to assume that Golden Sullivan did the same. That when they bought the club, they possibly only paid over 25-30 million over to the Icelandics, and then put money into the club to run the club. Right, At the time, they said the debts were roughly around 105, 110 million. Though their first press conference, they claimed that they were still finding debts hidden down the back of the sofas. And remember, you got the likes of the Sheffield United deal in the region of 25-30 million, which if you incorporate all the lawyers' fees and everything else, that was still outstanding and needed to be settled.
Yeah. That was our fine for Tevez Gate.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then if you'd look, they'd managed to sell off to get money in. They'd sort of done deals with future season ticket money.
Yeah.
So future season, so they got a loan up front, and future season ticket money would pay that loan off. So they could say, well, so much money was coming in. Again, with transfer fees that were coming in, those loans would be sold off because the transfer fees are coming in. So if you're owed 50 million, they'll ask for someone for 40 million. And then that company gets a 10 million pound in their pocket.
Has it ever been cleared up exactly how much they've ended up forking out for West Ham?
No, I don't think it really has.
Because they've got it for a bargain fee, haven't they? When you look at what it is now.
Well, at the end of the day, you could say that West Ham as a club is where it is because of what they have done. So they took the club.
What, in Stratford?
You know, they will sit there. Yes, they. You know, if you're Gold and Sullivan's PR man, I don't know if Sean's watching. You know, they will say, well, they've increased the brand. You know, if you look, you know, our support is truly worldwide now.
Yeah.
The amount of interest in West Ham United, if you look at us from 2010, we were still the club of East London.
So that said, Nigel, knowing what you know now, if you look at it from the outside in, like you just said, you can probably argue that they've done a good job and they've put us in a good place, and if we're financially viable, we've got bigger, we've got a worldwide audience.
Yeah, depends what you want from your football club, isn't it?
This is what I'm saying. So going back to the time when they started pushing on with the bid for the Olympic Stadium, obviously you was dead against that. Knowing what you know now, would you still be dead against it then? Would you still rather be back at Upton Park?
Yes,
yeah. That's the thing. And why did you protest? If you sort of going back then, sort of with the was it to do with the fact that you just didn't want to leave Upton Park, or you didn't trust them? Did you not trust them either?
I didn't know. The funny thing about it is that David Gold, funny enough, when he owned Birmingham City, and I think he got a lot of stick for this, he gave interviews in newspapers professing his love for West Ham United. Now, it was well known that Gold and Sullivan had shares in the 90s to own West Ham United. They tried to buy West Ham United, but the other directors made sure that they couldn't buy up enough shares to take full control. So around 92, 93, that's when they bail out and go to Birmingham City, which I believe they paid £1 for.
I didn't know
because
that.
It was bankrupt. So they had shares and tried to control the club. I think it was around the time Jack Petchey was bailing out to go and buy Watford. And they were looking to snap up shares, and obviously the Kearns and the Hills under Charles Warner were never going to allow, you know, pornographic people, pornographers as such, to buy into the family-friendly club. But you can't watch the game unless you buy a bond.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but
selective
that's
morals.
Another thing. Yeah,
selective morals. Yeah.
So you had that situation. Then they come back. Now here's a strange thing. I've got the documents that list every shareholder. So West Ham United was sold in 2006 to the Icelandics.
Yeah.
Now that was the first time the club had ever been sold in its history. So people look at Terry Brown and think he was the owner. Terry Brown was never the owner of West Ham United. He was a minimal shareholder. Yeah,
he was a front man, effectively. That everyone.
Well, he was brought in by the Kearns family, so he becomes a director. I think 89 or 90. I think just after relegation.
So is that a little bit like what Levy is at Tottenham, where Levy he's not the club owner?
Yes. So this is the thing. But Brown becomes into power. What happens is that the bond scheme turns into Kearns out.
Right.
So we got a family who's, you know, we got Martin Kearns is the chairman of West Ham, and he is the fourth generation of Kearns to sit on the board all the way back to 1900 when his great-great-grandfather sat on or his great-grandfather helped found West Ham. So that's how much Kearns were West Ham. From the very first day, there was a Kearns on the board. So they put in Terry Brown as a front man. So Brown was already on the board, minimum shareholder. All he owned was Sussex Beach Holiday Village. Yeah. It was Billy Butlins. That's what he was.
Down the caravan park.
Yeah, so we all remember Sussex Beach Holiday Village. They used to do a lot of sponsorship at West Ham.
Yeah.
So he comes in, buys board, minimal shareholder. Well, now he's fronted up as a chairman because that's seen as a change then, isn't it? It kills the Kearns out movement, and the fans can sit back behind Brown, obviously, but that keeps the status quo. All the shares are still owned by the same people, predominantly the Hills and the Kearns. So the Hills family still owned a big percentage.
Is it? There's no involvement now, is there? It's complete because, like you said, it was completely sold to the Icelandics, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
sold in its entirety at that point.
Yeah, so there was a minority shareholder there though who owned about 9% of the shares.
Yeah,
David Sullivan.
Back then in
2006.
How do I not know that?
He's a minimal shareholder,
so
but he's listed in the document that I've got.
Right. Oh, right. So he's got his fingers in a lot of pies, that fucker.
So So he was always, so he's made money at the first sale.
Yeah.
Whatever much he got, and then he comes back in 2010, as we say, to buy the club again. As I said, 50%, but they get full control. Yeah, so they're minority shareholders still. Sullivan's minority shareholder. Icelandics own 50%. Gold owns 25%. Sullivan owns 25%, but you could see, we all know now, Gold was the front man, the 442, the fans all loved him, blah, 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 bore the life out of me. And then Sullivan could play.
What do you reckon was the main driver? Because look, the London had already long been awarded the Olympics. That was being developed before Gold and Sullivan bought West Ham. Do you think they always had one eye on that? Do you think that had any bearing on the fact that they bought the club? Because
yes, without doubt, this was just fell in their lap. A plan they'd already formulated probably 10 years before. If you look, how long would it have taken? Yeah, when were the Manchester Commonwealth Games? 2004. So this is something they'd been working on 4 or 5 years before that.
Yeah,
to be part of the bidding to take over, so you had Manchester City back in the Manchester Commonwealth Games and Birmingham City, both clubs on their uppers.
Yeah.
You look where City were, look where Birmingham were. Both clubs needed that stadium. Manchester won, Manchester City benefit.
Yeah.
So they then need to move on, and by hook or by crook, they've got this plan. They can walk into the Icelandics and say, because remember, on day one, January the 17th...
You're saying they literally picked up their playbook from Birmingham, which is what they was hoping for, and brought it to West Ham.
Yeah. Now, it just so happens, though, that Gold has spent years telling the Birmingham City fans and the rest of the country how much he loved West Ham.
Yeah.
And Sullivan... there's an old interview from about 2005 of Sullivan saying, if it weren't Birmingham, my ultimate dream would be my boyhood club. Yeah, Cardiff City.
Yeah, I know. So if you look at that, right? If you look at that in I suppose black and white terms, and they bought into West Ham with that dream. They brought their playbook with them. They always had their eyes on that stadium. That's what they had their eyes on.
Well,
that's what they wanted. So what I'm saying is, how much did they try to get planning permission?
Right. Well, no. So what you got to look at?
How much did they try? Did they actually try?
No. Well, if you look at the interviews they done on the day they bought the club or the day after.
Yeah.
Look at the interviews. They sit down and they mention, we want to go to the Olympic Stadium. And what they say is these things. We don't want to own it. We want to rent it.
Yeah.
We've had conversations.
Yeah.
So before buying West Ham, they must have sat down with Newham Council. It was all planned out. They'd already met with Newham Council. They must have done, for what they said in that first interview, met with Newham Council and done the deal. And what you got to remember, there was 2 deals. The deal we got now and that we've got currently, that weren't the first deal. They were actually prepared to do a worse deal.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, what you
people
have to
forget this.
Well, this is what you have to bear in mind. You haven't got to be a genius to work out. You look at any Commonwealth Games or Olympic Games. 9 times out of 10, all you're left with are these fucking white elephant stadiums, right? That become a drain on. So what they were doing was it's almost like you're offering to do them a favour by giving that stadium some meaning and give them a tenant. But they knew by if they'd have done their maths, Karen Brady would have done her maths on that as well. They would have seen how much the running costs would have been. They would have anticipated the fact that the taxpayer would have been footing the bill. They would have known that this would have all blown up. They would have known that throughout the course of their embarrassment clause, it would have. This would have. It's almost gone fucking perfectly for them to the point now where the stadium's falling into disrepair to a degree. It needs work doing to it, and they are probably at a stage now.
That actually ties in to what happened at the beginning, and it goes all the way back to when the stadium was built. And people forget the Icelandics inquired about us moving. When the Icelandics bought the club, they inquired about moving into the Olympic Stadium, but they were told, "Give us 120 million, and we'll build you like a football stadium." And West Ham were like, "No, we're not. We're not doing that." So what happened is we were going to have this fantastic Olympic Stadium, but what happened is the credit crunch turned up. Labour government were on its uppers, spunked all the money. Tories come in. The famous letter in the Treasury that, sorry, we've spent all the money, left by the Labour Treasury Minister.
Yeah.
And now they've got to finish the London Stadium. They've got to pay for the Olympics and build it. So if you remember, the Olympic Stadium was supposed to have a digital wrap screen all the way around.
Yeah, retractable seating.
That was the first thing to go.
Retractable seating.
No, and that's the thing. Retractable seating was never supposed to be there.
It was. They was talking about it. It was in the CGIs that they was talking about.
No. So yeah, but they were never. That was never followed through. That was only if West Ham had coughed up the 120 million.
Wankers.
So when the stadium was then.
So you're telling me if they'd have pumped some money into that, it would have been a more suitable, better arena than what it is now.
If West Ham had been prepared to foot the bill at the start,
yeah,
they may have looked at it. But what you got to remember is the mayor at the time.
This is getting uglier and uglier, mate.
It is, because the mayor at the time, Ken Livingstone, though, was dead against any football being in the Olympic Stadium. Seb Coe didn't want football in the Olympic Stadium. Tessa Jow didn't want. All these ministers, Coe was in charge of the Olympics. And you had Tessa Jow, Minister of Sport for Labour, Ken Livingstone, London Mayor. Not happening. But what happens? It changes. Conservatives come in. First Boris into London.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then Dave Cameron goes into Downing Street. And who are party donors to the Conservative Party? Who is Karen Brady a baroness for?
Tories. She's Conservative, yeah.
So now we've got these people now. The stadium.
Sullivan's a big Tory donor as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you got all this, then the Olympic Stadium has to be scaled back. So the first thing that goes, the digital wrap. Yeah. Plastic. When the stadium was built, it was built with the lower tier was to be permanent. So then they changed the build. That the stadium, after use, was going to be dismantled. The upper tier was going to be removed.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a 25,000-seater stadium.
Right.
And that's what it was going to be. But then the Tories turn up and go, that ain't no good, is it? Realistically, that's just going to be a white elephant, which probably it would have been. Now the Tories go football. So we plot up Gold and Sullivan with their deal. It's a deal that can be done. But no retractable seating. The first deal, they're not moving the seats forward. What they're doing is that they're going to make the not even the extended roof. Yeah, they were just going to play football in that stadium, and they were going to have cricket there. They were going to have. It was always going to be sports, because we were teaming up with Essex, Newham. All the school kids in Newham were supposed to be able to have their sports day in that stadium.
Yeah.
That was part of the original.
So like you said, they'd had early negotiations with Newham Council.
Yeah,
so this was all done. So going back to what we said, right? So they bought the club. They've bought half the club, 50%, because they didn't want to absorb all of the debt initially.
Yeah.
They took a controlling stake. They always had it in their mind that they wanted to go to the Olympic Stadium.
Yeah.
The reason for that isn't to grow the club and to grow the asset. I don't think because they was already in a stadium. Because I don't think that we've achieved anything. You can agree with me or disagree with me on this, Nigel. I don't think we've achieved anything to this point that we couldn't have achieved in Upton Park.
No.
I think we could have achieved all that at Upton Park. I think if they'd have developed the stadium, continued developing it, given us what could we have gone up to there? Was it about
right? So I did see a question earlier on there about the East Stand.
Yeah.
So the East Stand, I think, was the new East Stand. So what you got to remember is the redevelopment of Upton Park started with the Bobby Moore and the Centenary stands.
Yeah.
Then what happened is the next stand to go was the Old West Stand that was built in 1925 out of the funds from getting to the Cup final in 23. built by the Kearns family as well,
really?
who were stadium builders. Yeah, because they were actually football stadium builders, the Kearns family.
Have we got no remnants of the Kearns left at the club now?
No, I don't know.
Sometimes
I think I've seen
really.
photographs
Really,
I've seen photographs. I don't know if Martin Kearns, the former chairman, is still sometimes. I've seen photographs of him in the director's box, so probably he still comes in. I imagine he's still friends with Terry Brown, and stuff like that. But I think they went through a bad time of it, and it was a sour end.
No, that's fine. But I interrupted you. The East Stand.
Yeah, so the East Stand. So we built the new West Stand, or the Dr. Martin stand, behind that East Stand. That allowed the pitch to be moved over.
Yeah.
That then allowed the new East Stand to have been built up to the pitch, and would then have allowed us to go back and not block the road, because the road was a problem because of the bus garage, and the road was a problem because of the flats. All overcome, all designed. Planning had been approved in 2001, around that time, maybe before. What scuppered it? Relegation in 2003. The demise of the West Ham that we loved is actually linked to the relegation of 2003.
And did they say at any point, I think they did, didn't they, that they couldn't get planning permission for Upton Park? That was a reason
Golden
why
Sullivan came up with excuses why. Now, what had happened is that the planning had lapsed.
Yeah.
So they'd put in for the West Ham, the club had put in again, but then they withdrew it. So it had gone to the London Mayor's office to be rubber stamped, but they withdrew it.
Right. Really?
So, yeah.
Fucking hell. Okay, so look, this was all part of the plan. So basically, what Sullivan did was he got his wicked way. He got his property deal. He got the football club, that was on its arse, cut price deal. We had the golden egg, the Olympic Stadium, happy days. We know, like we've already said, he wanted to do this at Birmingham. He loves properties, business on the side. He's got a lot of property in and around London. He loves a property deal. So the site of Upton Park gets sold to Galliard Homes. How much is it said that we got out of that, Nige?
So there's one thing that people always get carried away with. So prior to 2013, book price.
Are you ready?
All right, Gal.
Hello, Nige, you right?
Yeah, not so bad.
I'll
book price of Upton Park was 75 million. So if you went into West Ham's accounts prior to 2013, you looked at the book price, 75 million.
75 million.
Then it changes down to 30 million. People suspect there's skullduggery going on. But what had happened is that West Ham are doing the deal to sell the land.
Yeah.
The 75 million is an insurance on what they believed it would cost to if Upton Park was flattened to rebuild it. Once the club are moving to the London Stadium and they're selling just the land, the stadium's worthless. So it becomes the land value only that it was sitting on.
Yeah, right.
So they hold an auction.
I still think that was well underpriced. When you consider what they built on it.
Yeah,
how much money
I think it was well underpriced. And I've seen this story, and I was going to mention this as well. It was underpriced for what we sold it for.
Yeah,
Galliard Homes purchased it, but there is
my sound completely off.
All right, but there is a report going around, Nigel, that site was soon sold back to a company that David Sullivan was a director of.
Well, no, right, no.
So what I'm saying is, did he sell it? Did he sell it to himself cheap?
Well, no, because you will not find one shred of evidence that David Sullivan was ever a director of that company.
Of course you won't. Of course you won't.
But basically, what we're saying is, so ultimately, right? He's done all this for a property deal. That's what he's done. He has done. He's done.
At the time, I remember seeing an email from David Sullivan, where it was put to him about why didn't he buy Upton Park or whatever, and his answer was, "Can you imagine the outrage of the fans if I was found to be profiting from the sale of the ground?" So what you got to remember, the sale of the ground, the majority of that money went to our contribution from the Olympic Stadium.
Right.
I'm giving you fireworks. Look, didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
Yeah. He was so happy to see you, Chris.
I didn't do that for you, Gary, did I?
You didn't. No, you blanked.
No, you didn't do it for me. Just for you, Chris. That was. He was so excited.
Well, I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't get the fireworks. Nick gave himself the fireworks.
Yeah.
Oh no, I can't. I haven't got the ability to do that. I can't.
You can't set me on fire.
Fireworks. I can't set you on fire. No.
Nor should you, Nick. You should keep them to yourself, mate. Yeah.
Right. So just to give you an update on where we are, we've spoken about Golden Sullivan. Thanks for joining us, Gonzo. By the way,
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So we've spoken Golden Sullivan. We've gone through to the fact that we're sort of at the stage Upton Park now. Upton Park was sold to Galliard Homes. We're talking about the story that can't be confirmed, but it's out there about Galliard Homes was later sold back to a company that apparently Sullivan was a director of. But
Phoenix.
Yeah. But apparently you'll never find a record of it. Of it. So ultimately, as Nigel said earlier on, the playbook that they used, that they was going to use at Birmingham, which was for, that they planned, which was for the Commonwealth Games, they was going to get that white elephant of a stadium that they planned on. They just picked that up and they brought that to West Ham because they knew that the Olympic Games had already been awarded to London. So that was always their plan. Nigel thinks that they had already had preliminary talks with Newham Council, didn't you, Nigel?
Yes.
On this as well.
Yeah.
So this they never wanted to redevelop Upton Park. They had no interest in it. They just wanted to go into the free stadium. That stadium that we're in at the moment could have been an awful lot better if we'd have put some money into it. 120 million, Nigel said. We'd have had the digital wrap. We'd have had a few of the other bits and pieces as well. They said no. Bollocks, we're not putting any money. We're not putting any money into it.
That was the Icelandics.
Yeah. But we're not putting any money into it. So this is where we are at the moment. So ultimately, is it so ridiculous? Because we're going to move on to the next stage now, which is Gonzo's area, which is what he's been talking about an awful lot lately. So a lot of people are saying they're never going to do it. Of course, they're not going to sell the stadium. They're not going to leave Stratford. Look at what they've just done. And then think, would it be that outrageous to think that a stadium that is rented, that as you've said several times, Gonzo, is in disrepair, needs work, is running at a loss with the LLDC, would it be ridiculous to think that they're going to do it again? Because the land that stadium is sitting on is worth a fucking fortune. So we'll do our conclusions at the end, but Gonzo, we'll go over to you, mate. If we start with, I suppose if we start at the beginning, so we've moved into the stadium. You've got that silly rental deal with the LLDC in West Ham, costing the taxpayer a fortune. Apparently, that relationship between the two entities is a bit fractured, isn't it?
Massively. Yeah, massively.
I don't think it's ever been there, to be fair.
Well, they share they're separated by the lobby. If you've ever been in, done the tour of the stadium, you've got the escalators there. On the left-hand side, you pretty much got the club's offices, Karen Brady's office on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, there's a load of LLDC offices.
They're that close.
Oh, yeah. But
actually, Chris, I'll stop you. That's West Ham offices on the right-hand side.
Well, they're in there because I've been in there because when we went and did, if they have, they've changed it very, very recently, if that's the case, because the reason we got in to do our tours, which we did on video, was we basically, it was the LLDC that let us into the stadium because we used to get let into Upton Park as Hammers Chat, and then we sort of fell out with them a little bit and they stopped letting us in there. So we actually ended up speaking with the LLDC, and it was them that let us in, and we actually went and picked our tickets up from their offices. So we went and we did all the tours for free and everything. They said as long as you video it and put it out there, then you can have the tours for free. So we've been in there, but they're in the same building and they're certainly within the same vicinity. No need to communicate via email, but they do because they don't speak to one another basically. So you've got that situation, but I've often wondered how frustrated West Ham are because it was never, ever the plan. The plan was always to own the stadium. So this rental agreement, whatever we've got now, should never even have been in place, basically. And you had all that situation with Hearn and Levy and Tottenham and everything else. So I've often wondered, I think they found themselves in a situation which they're really quite happy with, which was sort of an unplanned situation in terms of, you talk about when they sat down, when Golden Sullivan sat down and the debt's still at the club and all that stuff, and they sat down when they took over, I think the ultimate plan was to get that stadium, to own that stadium, and then to flip it far quicker than was ever done now. And then obviously that's thrown a spanner in the works there. And now they find themselves in a rental agreement, which actually at the moment they're very happy with. But I know this because I've been told it directly by someone that works high up in that office, not in an email, face to face. The idea was for them to be so straitjacketed by it, like whichever arm's length, that's what they are. They're ALMOs, they're arm's length management organisations, what the LLDC is, or any of these things. For them to be so frustrated with it that they would just say, take it, but not just take it. We'll not take it for cheap. We'll pay you to take it, and that's pretty much been the long-term aim since the rental agreement came into place.
So let's go back to Nigel here because I'm going to start a fight. Right, Nigel.
No, see what happened is West Ham and Newham were not looking. They were looking to run the stadium, so the government was always going to be the owners. West Ham and Newham wanted to run the stadium. Now, what happened is big time.
Your webcam, Gary.
You had the complaint by Leyton Orient and an unknown source put in also a complaint in that we believe was one of the architects of the stadium. Put in a complaint.
Hold on, I'm going to remove
about Newham's use of government money for their part of controlling the stadium, and basically this scuppered Newham Council and took them out of the picture because they were actually borrowing money from the government to put down their part. So they were actually borrowing money off of the government for their half of the money to run the stadium,
which would then go to the government,
which would then go back to the government.
Yeah. But that was to buy it for 90 million initially.
And that was it was to run the stadium.
90 million. They wanted.
On a lease.
On a long lease. They were buying the lease.
Right,
the government was still going to own the stadium.
Yeah.
This was about control.
Right.
Who controlled, in a way that Man City controlled the Emirates.
Yeah.
This was about that control.
Yeah.
Now that was what was scuppered in 2012.
The Etihad, by the way, not the Emirates.
Sorry, the Etihad. That was what was scuppered in 2012 when it all fell apart.
Right.
But that deal, though, and this is the funny thing that people forget, we might have been controllers of our own destiny in that stadium. But here's the things. One, we'd have been picking the bills up for everything. Two, UK Athletics still had their full lease. Yeah. So UK Athletics were actually the main concessionaires of the stadium.
Yeah.
Three, there was no retractable seating ever part of that deal. The seats would have stayed as they were in the Olympic Stadium.
Right.
No extra roofing. No, whatever.
That's right. There wouldn't have been the roof. Yeah.
Thing is, there had to be the roof. That's a
no. They didn't rule, because the roof that was there covered the seats that were there because it was that far back.
Yeah. Oh, bloody hell!
The football rules state that the roofs have to cover the seats.
Yeah.
So when they came up with the idea of retractable seating, the roof had to be extended. And that's why the roof was extended. And to do that, it cost them £150 million to reinforce the steel to be able to extend the roof.
Yeah. Right. Well, look.
I think there's a lesson to be learned here, and that is, it's good to be a Tory donor, isn't it? Because you do get some good favours, and they got a wonderful big favour off of Boris on this one.
Yeah, in a way, the club got a better deal out of the first deal collapsing.
They did, yeah. And the government got a worse deal because they would have had to build the roof. Yeah.
And they wouldn't have had to. They wouldn't have had to pump the money.
Well, the thing is, you can play hardball because, like we've said, when you do get these, that stadium would have been a white elephant without a permanent tenant. It would have been, it absolutely would have been. So I suppose West Ham, to a degree, or whichever club it was that won the bid to get in there, they was always going to get a good deal. But ultimately, if we're going to buy the place now, because that structure, don't forget, it was never designed. What's the lease? Is it a 100-year lease?
It was a 99-year
lease.
99-year lease. That stadium weren't fucking designed to last 99 years.
Well, I'll just on that. So when the Icelandics were involved, that was when was first approached basically and said, "Do you want to have anything to do with this?" Like, Icelandics didn't want anything to do with the Olympic Stadium at all. So this is, whatever. This is way earlier than 2012, obviously. So they said, okay, well, what we're going to do here is we're going to build a 25,000-seater athletic stadium, which is why it's very much in two parts. You've got the bit that's dug into the ground, the concrete bit, then everything above that is a temporary structure. So all that was ever planned to be done was that top section was going to come down after not after the Olympics. The World Championships was the year after the Olympics. World Championships gets run. So really, by the time it's built, 24 months maximum, that thing stands there. Then they revert it back, and then that becomes the new, because they knocked out, I think was it Birmingham or Sheffield, one of the two, whatever the National Athletics Stadium was. It was right, we're going to demolish that, and this will be it. This will be the home of athletics. Athletics obviously had to put money in. Well, they offered it. Athletics paid a nominal 15, 20 million, something like that. West Ham said no. At that point, if we'd have said yes, they would have future-proofed it in the way that Man City's was. It was never future-proof. So no, so the bottom bit was meant to stay, top bit. It was only ever meant to be a 25,000-seater athletic stadium. That's all the structure was meant to be in terms of permanent, going on for 100 years or whatever.
So again, we've signed a 99-year lease on the stadium that at some point is going to need some serious structural work or needs to be rebuilt.
Before we moved in, they had to re-weld the whole stadium for two things. One, they had to make the upper tier.
It was for the cantilever roof as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's
because they're extending roof. That all had to be re-welded, and also because as Gonzo said, which I said earlier, was that upper tier was only temporary.
Yeah,
because that was what they were going to send to Crystal Palace.
Yeah, because I don't know if you were involved in the Olympics development, Nigel, doing what you did, but I was. So I was involved in quite a bit around there, and the rush to get things done for 2012. I mean, I was involved in East Village and a few of the others as well. Mate, the corners that were cut, I was amazed that things got signed off for in time for that. It was fucking crazy, but it had to be signed off. Things that doors had to, the doors had to be opened. The date was a date. So I'll be surprised if the stadium's any different. These buildings, a lot of them, they look good on the outside, but you look a little bit deeper inside, it's fucking horrific.
Yeah, but I'm sure that's what happens. I'm sure that's what happens when you're putting together a stadium that's supposed to be temporary, right? They will make some shortcuts.
Yeah, you would think so. You would think so. But ultimately, that land is. Let's clear the other thing up as well. So if we buy the stadium, this is something that a lot of people have asked the question. So they say, well, if we buy the stadium, is it just a stadium or does it also include the land around it? Does anybody know? So if you buy that lease that we've got, if we were to buy the stadium, is it just the plot of land that the stadium is on and maybe the concourse around it? Or is there...
It's the island.
It's the island.
Yeah.
That's a big bit of land, isn't it?
Well, look at it. Look at the training track. And look at the concourse all around the stadium. It is a big bit of land. It really is, yeah. And I think the thing is, when they did this pledge, which ended up being the gentrification of the area, and I mean, you'll all remember what Stratford and Manor Park, but particularly all that area was like, all before that. Yeah. That was when they built, when they built the Olympic Village. And then they spoke of this. It was all political talk when they were saying, the area is going to be rejuvenated. And they said all that stuff. But what has happened there is actually, I believe, beyond their wildest dreams. I'm talking about the politicians here. Beyond their wildest dreams, that actually what's happened. And that actually then Westfield came on board and everything happened. And actually now you look at it. And I think back then, probably in the early 2000s, it's probably difficult to imagine. I've obviously had Canary Wharf there and stuff like that, but you look out how it's all expanded, and you'll remember all that everywhere down by the river down there and everything. There was points probably in the early 80s where you couldn't give a lot of that land away. Do you know what I mean? And it was
up until the Olympic Stadium. That was my cut through home.
Was it?
Round the back of Marshgate Lane and everything. You had you had obviously Hackney Dog Track is up where the Copper Box used to be. You had a big bus garage there, Hackney Bus Garage. Then you come down further. You had the Fridge Mountain, which was obviously where London stored its fridges once they couldn't throw them in tips.
Carpenter's Lane to go and get all your dodgy MOTs as well.
Yes, yeah, you had
yeah,
you know, Nick, yeah. You had all the car mechanics down Carpenter's Road. The Carpenters, that part of the whole of Stratford was
it was a dump, wasn't it?
It was the dumping ground of Newham.
It's been turned into a kind of new Canary Wharf. I mean, it's real
amazing
premium property over there.
And it was never supposed to be like that. When they announced the building in the Olympic Park, I was still living in Newham at the time, and it was supposed to look like a proper park.
Yeah.
It's turned into a business district.
You know, that all these tower blocks were never shown in the mock-ups. It was going to be the new park, the regeneration of Stratford. Westfield's actually had been mooted for years and years, even before the Olympics. Westfield's was going to be there.
The funny thing is, Nigel, they've regenerated that part of the area, but then you walk through the bridge onto a council estate, and the rest of Stratford is still the same.
Well.
Right? The gentrification hasn't spread, has it?
No.
Well, it has, but the thing about the Carpenters estate is that that was earmarked to be done away with, and what they wanted to do is that there was a university of which I think has had stuff built opposite the middle tower. There's a university. They wanted to have student accommodation. So Newham's plan was to ship everybody out the Carpenters, because let's face it, that was fucking rough. And that was going to be the new student residence. They were going to flatten it and rebuild new residents for the students. But what they didn't dig in, and fun enough, Russell Brand was part of the problem, was that a load of the single mums and everything that lived on the estate had made a community for themselves. And they fought to stay there, and they won. So therefore,
is that what happened?
Yeah, that's what
Russell
happened.
Brand.
Brand went down there and
he
highlighted
did.
their
He did.
Highlighted the cause of the single parents.
My
and the
awakening
mums.
wonders. He went down there, didn't he?
You know, the working class warrior that he is, and and he helped save the Carpenters estate. I mean, the Carpenters pub should have been bulldozed years ago. It was proper filth. Nobody would go in there. I mean, how that pub survived purely was they had the good grace to build the Olympic Stadium and West Ham move in before they got it knocked down, because it would have been gone years ago. Now it's a thriving pub.
Yeah.
Right. So look, moving on swiftly. So we're in the stadium, right? With FFP, with the dawn of FFP, and the fact that, as we're seeing with Newcastle now, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. If it comes to the fact that you want to plunder money into your team, it doesn't matter. You can only kind of spend what your club makes. It doesn't make any difference. So what would be the reason, do you think? Because it can't be for football reasons, for us to be going out finding further investment. So if the rumours are true, that where Sullivan and Kretinsky are said to be happy with hammering their shares down to 25% so that they can go out and get an equal shareholder. They're touting the Middle East. They're looking for a big money man from Qatar. That's what they're mentioning to come in. Sullivan's obviously not willing to let go of the reins completely, but he said no. We'll have even Stevens. Free even equal partnership because they struggled to sell Vanessa's 10%. Didn't they? They struggled to sell her 10%, so that's why they've gone up to 25% now. But why would we be doing that if it was just for the football club? If it was just if nothing was happening, why would we be doing this at the moment? Gonzo, what do you reckon?
Well, I do think I think that there's a suspicion within the club, despite what they say, and the club have been at pains, I think, particularly over the last few days, to link the fact that they have no intention. I mean, this has been a narrative long. We don't want to buy the stadium, but they caveat that if we do buy the stadium, we'd have to be subsidised to do it, which they start to say quite a lot as well. And there's also this thing was basically because But I don't even know why this information is offered. So the information is offered out there. But if we are relocated, then there's been a really good clause put in there to say what you want about Karen Beatty. She's negotiated something which makes a deal that's so good for West Ham. And I don't mean for West Ham fans, but I mean, West Ham as a company and the entities that obviously own the shares in West Ham, that should they wish to move us, anyone wants to move us, they'd have to we have to agree the compensation package. So if someone wants to come in and relocate us, we have to be paid a lot of money, which we decide. The only thing I can think of here is that if there is going to be something that comes available, that they do not have deep enough pockets to pay for whatever it is that needs to be done. And I think I'm just wondering if they're bringing someone on board. I know there is a belief in the club, certainly, that a change of government, and I don't know whether this extends to the mayor elections, which are in May, but certainly a change of government, which is fully expected. They believe that may well be the turning point for the stadium, and the stadium is going to become available. So I think at the moment they're probably lining everything up for if that stadium becomes available. But there's certainly, you hear so much from it that I think that there's a genuine belief there that something may happen. And as for this thing about people being embarrassed, I mean, they were never going to sell the Millennium Dome. No, that was never going to happen, because that would have been an embarrassment. And that actually, it does happen. So state assets do get sold. You've also got to remember that this is a long, long time ago. And I'm not even talking about 2012. A lot of this work went in sort of 7 years before that. So a lot of the people that made the decision and pledged this Olympic legacy, they're not working, and they're not in Parliament. There's been several different governments since then. There's a lot of the civil service are not there. And even someone like Lord Coe, who pledged all this stuff, he's a nobody now in that sense. So I'm not sure how much embarrassment there is from the government.
You're fine. Is he not head of the International Olympic Committee?
But I mean, in terms of government, because he was a powerful man in the Conservative Party. That's not the case. That's not the case anymore. So I'm not sure how much this embarrassment, how many people are actually left in government who would be embarrassed by it anyway. I do think to a large extent, at what point does this embarrassment supersede actually the public purse strings? And I think it's going to happen.
Labour could effectively come in and say, well, this ain't our fuck up, it's the Tories, we're going to get rid of this because it's a public drain.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they could have, but the irony is the Olympics was agreed under a Labour government, and then the Conservatives came in and they basically saw that bit through. But they're so far removed from, I don't even know, was it Blair? I don't even know whether Brown, I think it might have been Gordon Brown, I don't know. It's so far ago, there's no one left to be embarrassed by it. They weren't even there. They could say, not me, Gov.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff was built up that was built under Labour, wasn't it? So Labour came in 97, so just before. So it might have been started. I mean, like the likes of the Dome and things like that. Those things must have been put in place before Labour came in.
No, the bid for the Olympic was done by Labour.
Yeah. No, for the Olympics, I know for the Olympics definitely, and that was under Ken Livingstone as well, because I remember some resentment from Ken Livingstone to Boris handing it over so as he could take the glory, right, and do all that. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think I said this the other night on the show, and that is that building on from what you say, Gonzo, Sadiq Khan has been. I don't like Sadiq Khan, by the way. Let me qualify that. I've got no time for the guy. However, he has been targeted a lot by the Tories in terms of, around mayoral elections. The last one, they didn't fund him, and they left a bridge closed in London to let traffic snarl up so that it would make him look bad, even worse to Londoners, and tried to lose him the election. It didn't. He got re-elected. Only then did they give him the money. Then they forced him to put fares up just before that as well, because they didn't give him enough money, right? This is the sort of thing they do with Khan. And leaving that drag anchor on his P&L, as having to pay for the London Stadium, I envisage that's going to go away once a friendlier Labour government comes in. They'll do something to get rid of it. And bear in mind what we've seen as a trend in politics over the last couple of years, and that is whatever the government wants the law to be, they can decide what that law is going to be. For instance, Rwanda's legal. Rwanda's a safe country. We're going to pass laws to make it safe. Well, that's now opened the floodgates to any future government to do the same thing, make up their own rules. Now, if they want to, set the law around this public asset, they could do something about that, right? I don't know whether they'll go to that extent, or whether they'll just do something like that old nuclear option of folding down folding the holding company, because the company that operates it is not the company that holds the asset, right? Of the land.
Yeah, but just sorry, you are right. I just so you know, we have legislated for that. Apparently, that's in the contract. If the LLC goes bust, then the London Assembly, the government
we weren't clear on that. We weren't clear on that.
Yeah. No, I've had that told to me literally.
No, that is But when Karen Brady negotiated the deal, she insisted that there is no situation that West Ham can be evicted from that stadium.
No situation. Under current law, Nigel. Under current law. Now,
under the
as we've seen,
that West Ham have
law
signed,
can be changed. Yeah.
Within reason, they can't go mad.
They can't rip up if they rip up the contract, they've got to pay off all the contracts. Not just West Ham United. They've got to pay off everyone.
Yeah.
So Brady had it written in the contract that if for any reason
you can't fuck around with contract law, I don't think.
No, and this is as she had the foresight, though. Yeah. If whoever the government, because you remember it was LS 180 first. Before it was LLDC. So LLDC set up this
185,
LS 185. They were the stadium operators, not the LLDC. They went bust. LLDC had to take it on, which is funded by the mayor's office.
Yeah.
The LLDC, who were set up to run the Olympics, the development and everything in the area, then take over to running it. Now they were supposed to be by now shut down.
Yeah.
Because it's the London legacy. Well, they've had the legacy. How long do you want legacy?
Exactly.
They should have been gone. But because of this situation and because of the way West Ham, at the end of the day,
it's not an Olympic village anymore. Anyway, it's a business district.
Yeah.
The Olympic Village is actually was always sold off. I believe some of it's run by like housing.
Some of it are apartments.
Yeah. Some of it's apartments. Some of it's like a housing association.
Yeah. But Nigel, asking you the same question, then I go to Gary. Why do you think that Sullivan and Kretinsky and Trip Smith, why do you think they're going out there looking for this third 25% Middle Eastern investor? If with FFP, it doesn't matter about someone coming in and throwing money into the club. We've like we just said. Why do you think they're doing it? What do you know? Come on, Nigel. What do you know?
This is the way I see it. Is you've got the demise of David Gold. Now the thing about it, the one thing they've always said is they wanted to have a dynasty. Yeah, Gold and Sullivan both wanted a dynasty where when they passed, their kids took it over. Yeah. What we've seen with Gold is that possibly, that Vanessa was possibly more West Ham. Sorry, Jacqueline was probably more into West Ham than Vanessa.
Well, we're seeing that she's selling these shares.
But Jacqueline passed away sadly, like within months, was it, of David Gold passing away. So whether Gold knew that would happen or not. So the legacy has become a bit, for the Gold family, diluted. Yeah. And perhaps Vanessa don't really want it.
Yeah.
Then you look at Gold's boys. Do they want it?
Oh, Sullivan's, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, Sullivan's boys. Do they want it? So perhaps they're looking at it now as there's got to be a time. If you look at when the West Ham was sold to the Icelandics.
What I mean is, why do you think they're looking for this Middle Eastern investor? Though?
Right, well, this is the thing. If you look at when West Ham sold to the Icelandics, talk about strike when the iron's hot. Yeah, we just got back in the Premier League. We just had a top 10 finish. We've just been to the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
West Ham's stock was sky high,
as it is at the moment, I suppose.
Now we've just had. We're on the verge of our third out of 4 seasons in the top 10. We've just won a European trophy. West Ham's stock is sky high. So now, see, and what you remember, what they've paid for it. So what they've already sold, they've already recouped the money that they've paid. Yeah. They can sell more and recoup that money, and they're if he's left with 25%, that's still worth more than what they bought the 50% for. Still worth 4 times as much as what they bought. Gold, I think the original ownership was Sullivan owned, I think it was 32%, and Gold owned 18%, and then the Icelandics had the other 50%.
Yeah.
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 There's something amiss, isn't there?
What about you, Gary? Why do you think that they're going out there looking? I mean, it's like Sullivan, because that's the one thing. Sullivan, I don't know Sullivan, never met him. It's just the impression that you get is that he's obviously a bit of a power-hungry control freak. Why would he be willing to hammer his controlling stake down to 25% in line with Kretinsky and shake loads of money? Loads of money.
Well, I think it's to do with balancing risk, because there's some kind of big play coming up, and I don't think he's got even if he had the finances to fund something like that. Yeah, that's been discussed. I don't think he would on his own. I think he'd want to do it, with a group and kind of spread his risk. I think it's perfectly feasible, given that they're crying out for Qatari investment, and we all know the Qatari's involvement in that park. That there could be something in that, and this has been rumoured a couple of times now. Us moving out to Thames Freeport.
I'm the only one not sitting in a shed.
Yeah, it's this. Yeah, where's your shed? Get yourself a shed. This has been rumoured a couple of times, and these things have got a habit of, when they just keep coming back. This is about the third time this Thames Freeport has raised its ugly head.
It is fucking ugly.
And you know that the Conservatives, the Freeports all around the country, they want to make a success of one of them. And I don't know whether that would be something, perhaps a pre-election play to, in the elections, October now, something like that. Perhaps a pre-election play to try and turn the Thames Freeport into an up-and-coming area with a world-class, where we heard that before, sports stadium, football stadium, entertainment centre, maybe a casino, Nige, as you were saying earlier.
Could be a casino.
Yeah. Or maybe you could float it in the middle of the Thames like they do in whatever county
Ozark. I saw it in Ozark.
Yeah, that's right. Ozark. Yeah. Can't get a license, so we're going to build a boat. Yeah. So I think that would, and it's going to bring employment to the area. It's going to be a huge success. It's going to be a low tax zone. It's going to be all this sort of stuff, and try and draw this picture. I don't know whether there's time enough to frame something like that and put plans in place before an election. But I do think something's going to happen though very soon. I don't think it's to do with a mayoral election.
I think something's happening.
Yeah, I don't think it's to do with a mayoral election, because the candidate.
How do you feel then? Just say, for instance, because I don't believe any of this is true, I must admit.
You've got to leave that to the end, Nigel.
Yeah, I know. So, how would you feel playing? Let's go with Tilbury, Freeport. Let's say there's a football stadium built there. How would you feel about West Ham playing there?
Be fucking windy.
Yeah.
It better be a closed-in stadium. You imagine James Ward-Prowse's corners. He'd have a nightmare. No. You can't go from East London to Essex. It's bollocks. No. Not a chance. Especially no. Personally, no. At least where we are, we're in East London. At least where we are in a 60,000 seater stadium, you got multiple transport links. If they did do so, if they bought the stadium and they turned it into a football stadium and we took control of it, it probably would become the bollocks of a venue. It probably could be.
There's another thing.
Yeah, because of where we are. But the fact of the matter is, you can't do that. You can't move us from East London out to. I mean, that's deep Essex. It's like barren
marshland
as well.
It's marshland. It's known best for being somewhere near Lakeside, right?
Well, it's a bit past Lakeside, but yeah,
it's a bit past. Yeah, it is. But you know what I mean? There's no transport links. You'd have to put transport links there as well.
No, there's a ferry from Gravesend.
See, Nigel's thinking selfishly, like you were the other day, Gary, when you talked about Romford. Nigel's thinking this is going to be nice and convenient for me. That's what you're thinking.
No, personally speaking, I'm glad you said that, because West Ham has to play in Newham.
It's got to be in East London. It's got to be.
That's full stop.
It's not West Ham anymore, is it? It's no longer West Ham. Otherwise you become, what do you call it? MK Dons. MK Dons.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Exactly and then if you haven't got the the pull and the heritage of the area, and then you're just basically in one of those brand new stadiums, which I'll make up. It'll probably look like Southampton Stadium, but a bit bigger, a corrugated iron solar stadium. You know what
covered
they
in, covered in seagull shit.
That would kill.
Well, you probably would, wouldn't you? Went down the estuary, but
I was having
they're prefabs. They're like prefabricated stadiums, aren't they?
Exactly. They're horrible. I was having I hate them. I was having that same thought the other night when we were talking about this. I was thinking it ain't going to be a £1 billion development like Tottenham's. It's going to be some fucking Meccano kit from the local stadium builders. It's going to be rubbish. It's going to be rubbish. Whatever.
Of course, when West Ham was formed in 1900, West Ham was in Essex.
Yeah, but don't want to go back there, Nige.
No, just for those saying that we don't want to be an Essex club. I want to break it to your people.
Personally, for me, not a fucking chance.
No,
not a chance in hell. I think that would be absolutely the final insult. It would be heartbreaking.
A complete piss
take. And you know what? If this does happen, right? Let's just cut to the chase. If this does happen, if this was always the play to sell Upton Park, to build flats on it because he's a fucking property maniac, to get us into the London Stadium with this hammered down fucking deal that was strangling the LLDC to the point where they'd give it to us for peanuts.
Yeah.
Then we'd be left with this land that's worth 3 to 4 billion. Then he fucks us off out to
Tilbury.
Yeah, but that's like Bond villain shit. That's not Bond villain stuff. Honestly, it is. You can't even comprehend. And it was bad enough doing what they done, moving us from Upton Park. But I'm going to say it. How much of a cunt would we feel then if he did that? At that point,
it's another scale. It's another scale.
That's mad. In the space of 10 years as well.
We get behind Nigel's next campaign, I'll tell you.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Nigel,
that would be funny.
Protesting to stay at the London Stadium.
The irony.
Well, it's funny because I did get my flag out to hang up behind me, and I didn't have any hooks. So I've still got my "Say No to the Olympic Stadium" flag that I used to hang on the gate.
If we can make sure the march is not from Tilbury to Stratford, though, because me knees.
But I think 100%. There would be massive support for that this time. There would be. I don't think there wouldn't be anyone that would be in favour of that. There wouldn't be. Not a chance.
Where's
a lot of. Whetstone would be. Yeah, I know.
He'd love it. He'd love it.
He'd love it. But it's like Nigel. You saw today. Where was you stuck today trying to get home?
Yeah, on the M25.
On the M25. Yeah. Imagine that. So you think you go... I mean, I don't think you'd need a 60,000 seater if you moved us to Tilbury, put it that way. But if you did build
I don't think you need one in Stratford, but
no. But if you built a 60,000 seater, what are you going to have out there? What, one train station?
Yeah.
One train station.
Exactly what would be there, yeah.
Yeah, and a fucking gridlock on the M25.
Oh, it'd be like getting home from Tottenham, wouldn't it?
Oh, imagine a road rage on the way back after the Arsenal game when we just been beat 6-0, and you stuck behind some fucking gooner. Yeah. Oh God, yeah, it'd be grim. I don't think they can do that, but I think they can. So that's my fear, because when you talk about everything that we've just spoken about, it does sound outrageous. Yeah. But when you look at what he's done so far, you may well be right, Nige. There might be no chance of it happening. But I'll tell you what, would you be actually surprised if it did?
Yeah, I would.
You'd be surprised?
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. We've not been in that stadium 10 years. Yeah. This was
Sullivan ain't got long left. He's
how many more deals
he's got to do it quick. He's got to do it quick, Nige.
Yeah, but this is the thing, yeah. When you say deals, yeah, is that he's got to buy the stadium to sell it. He don't own the stadium. They got.
But this is what we're saying. The Qataris coming in, 25% shareholder. That land, a lot of the land around that stadium is Qatari owned.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. Yeah.
It's Qatari owned. So that development. So they're bringing people in with connections in that area that would be able to fund a redevelopment.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Where has the Qatari bit come into it? Because what I heard was that she went to Saudi Arabia, not to Qatar. So why? So
but they really
I know. to a lot of us,
it's only round the
they're
corner,
all the same out there.
It's only
But I
round the
think
corner.
actually they might get the hump.
It's like East London and Tilbury. You know, it's just round the corner.
I don't think they are all the same.
But look, they're going out there looking for Middle Eastern investment. They want oil money. They want big fucking money. People that can come in, and there's you wouldn't go out there and find. And to be honest, after what the Saudis have done with Newcastle, I think you're going to struggle to find someone to come in and try and transform a club.
I don't think you could do Saudi or Abu Dhabi in terms of investment, which leaves it realistically Dubai or Qatar. And I think, and then when you start looking at that,
well, the Qataris already own PSG.
Yeah,
they do. But yes, they do. But that's it. You look at the Saudis; they already own Premier League club. Abu Dhabi already own Premier League club, so it still becomes more viable than the other two. Then you look at the land as well, and it might be putting 2 and 2 together and come up with 5. It really might, but there's no doubt either that this is the other thing. The West Ham are looking and have made inquiries about land alongside that Freeport. You've got to say that the Freeport, where they're actually inviting this. And I'm glad the tax thing was put in there because they're being quite aggressive about it, the government, about these tax breaks as well. They're really openly trying to invite people in. It's not just Tilbury. It's down a lot more as well. And I think the fact that they're trying to do it and the fact that we've looked at land there. Now, it may well be as part of this training complex, but we've looked at 5 or 6 other sites as well. And so you start to look at it, and I just think it starts to look a little bit suspicious, really, because I think that the point is there really is no need. If all we're going to do, and I do think the most likely scenario is that we stay exactly as we are and the stadium starts to crumble, right? The roof leaks and all the rest of it. But you have this standoff. You've already got the standoff, which is basically the LLDC want to do the bare minimum. And then West Ham have made themselves a pain in the arse on purpose from day one, which is really... We all know the stadium is not really fit for purpose in terms of a football stadium. But if once you realise we've got to be in there and you decide we want a carpet, right? The carpet costs £250,000. We all agree you should never need a carpet. But the moment you decided we need a carpet, right, you would think any decent football club or anyone decent would just turn around the stadium and say, look, the green stuff is not really doing it for us. We want a nice claret carpet with some crossed hammers on it and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
You would. But there is a funny story behind that, Chris. Yeah.
Go on.
Guess who wanted green carpet?
I don't know.
Karen Brady.
Well, she knows fuck all about
football. What was her logic?
Right, this is the thing. So obviously, to quantify this to the people that don't know, from 2011 up until 2017, I sat on the supporters advisory board.
To make it look like the stands were closer to the pitch.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Right.
Because the green,
you got to think like them, Gary. You got to think like them.
They were trying to hide the gaps today, and that's why they made it green, like part of the green pitch. But of course, what she never banked on was the footballers complained about the fact they couldn't tell when they were crossing long balls across the pitch, whatever, where the pitch stopped. They were over it in balls, under it in balls. This is what the players were playing, that the green was causing a problem. And the funny thing about
it probably was, to be fair.
Yeah. The funny thing about it, no, it was. But the funny thing about it is, it actually looks better with a claret carpet.
It does. It looks all right, yeah.
But the blue bit, even the blue bit, though, is quite funny.
Yeah.
Because the blue bit, West Ham wanted all claret, but the London Stadium said, no, we're having blue. We're having our blue, not your blue. Tottenham blue.
Oh, God.
But this is my point. Look at the squabble in between the two. And for West Ham to turn around and say, well, hold on, we want a claret carpet. And by the way, we're not even paying for all of it. Yeah. The moment you start doing that, you're just creating arguments with people that work in the same building. And what you do is you have a breakdown of a relationship.
They're picking fights on purpose, aren't they?
Well, they are picking fights on purpose, and there's that old thing, pick your battles. Well, they picked every battle. And you get to this point now where you have to look. I don't think they've got no common sense at all. So you can only assume that this situation when they're not talking to each other, where they pretty much hate one another, my words, allegedly and all the rest of it. Yeah. You can only think that situation has been massaged to happen like that. And that's not a good thing at all. So I can only assume they're just trying to make it as impossible. So it's that thing that I heard, just so they get fed up and they just they get the best deal possible. But I think it's a pretty mean way to do business anyway, particularly when you're working alongside people, and you may not find out it works out too well for you when you're going to need a favour here or there. So I think that's the situation we're in. So you've got the situation where actually the stadium, they're saying, well, let the roof bloody leak, and then we'll do the bare minimum. And that's what you've got.
Well, that's right. But if you think about it, you know that you can imagine the situation that you've got. West Ham have negotiated this deal, which has the holding company LLDC by the bollocks.
Yeah.
And we're walking around, swaggering around, arrogantly, going, since you've seen the contract, that's on you. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. You do it. So it was never going to be a friendly relationship, was it?
No.
Not from the start. It never was going to be. But look, I suppose. Look, let's wrap that up. In terms of and we'll give our verdicts now. So I suppose I'll start. I'm with Gonzo on this completely. I am. I'm not saying I think 100% this will happen, but do I trust it not to happen? No, I do think something's happening. I think that this is a bit of a giveaway now with the share thing. Sullivan wouldn't be hammering his majority shareholding down if he didn't need to, and he would only need to if there was going to be some big investment coming in that that he couldn't fund potentially, or he needed help to fund. Something's happening. We're either buying the stadium. Something is happening as far as I'm concerned. It is very, very weird, and it's happening pretty quickly. This is what I think. Whether or not we end up leaving Stratford, whether or not they buy the land, they could look. Listen, I'd be in favour of that, knocking the fucking thing down, building a smaller stadium on the same plot.
Yeah.
Fine.
That'd fit, by the way, wouldn't it? Out to the left there, near as you look at the stadium, out to the left, there's a load of land, isn't there? You could get a stadium with a footprint of the Emirates or Spurs there, couldn't you?
Yeah, easily.
100%. Yeah, you could do. But that's personally what I think is going to happen
on the island.
Yeah.
The footprint of that stadium is a 92,000 stadium with a running track. The actual footprint of the stadium itself it exceeds that of Wembley. It's
enormous.
You could actually get a 50,000 seater stadium tight. No, actually, I say tight. I mean close to the round, but still have the amenities in it. On half of that, you really could.
Yeah.
No seat with a worse view than Wembley.
Absolutely, that's it.
But no, that is personally that's how I feel about these people now. I think that they're lying, deceitful bastards that have always got a plan. I don't think that they're finished. I don't. Something's afoot as far as I'm concerned. And there's no smoke without fire. These rumours about Thames Freeport, and as Gonzo said, we've been inquiring about land over that way. Why? Why have we been inquiring about land? Why the fuck are we moving from Rush Green to Basildon as well? Now that's 29 miles away. Moving even deeper into Essex. Yeah. So personally, for me, I think it's more than a conspiracy. I do. That's my take. Gonzo.
I just don't ever think the purchase of West Ham was about making West Ham great.
Nope.
The whole narrative of making us to compete with the top teams, that was never it. It was a business deal, and it was to make them even richer. There's no doubt about it. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think there's a situation where they're going to have some fun along the way. So do I think that David Gold supported West Ham? Yeah, I do. I don't think that Sullivan supported West Ham, but I do think he enjoys playing Football Manager. That's what he does. But in the same way that, you might buy something, you might buy yourself a car with the intention of selling it. Doesn't mean you ain't going to drive it around a few times and have a nice time before you move it on. I just think that's what's happening with West Ham. I do think it was an investment. And whatever the plan was, I don't even think. I think they're, to a certain extent, they're winging it. The plan was definitely to make lots of money. You may well have found because the ownership of the stadium and different things are reacting to it as it goes along. And regardless of what we think about Karen Brady and what she's done for our football club and our heritage and the badge that Nigel's wearing on his coat there, on his jacket, what she probably has done is nailed down a right proper business contract there, which is making everybody squirm. I think we're about to find out now, and I do think that we're going to see the movements, and there is something is going to happen with that stadium, and whether we get moved or something happens, I do think there's a change in ownership coming, because I do think it's about time they want to cash in their chips. I think the Gold family are cashing in their chips, and we're seeing that now. And it's Sullivan. I don't believe this thing that Sullivan is going to be majority shareholder for years and years to come. And the other thing, what I've never thought for a moment is that Krasinski wants to take overall ownership of the club. I think it's just an investment for him. And you, Trip Smith, by the way, who is a Trip Smith's history is he is a broker. That's what he does. Brokers deals. So you've got somebody. I mean, what's his name? Krasinski's home club, Sparta Prague. He only bought 40% of them when he went in. If he was so into football, that's who he would have bought. He didn't really have the income. So he owns a bit of Sainsbury's, a bit of Foot Locker. He's got an energy thing going on in France. A bit of that, and a bit of this, and a bit of that. I don't think any of these people. They're all in it for the investment. We actually have investors that the truth of it is in the name. The only thing we probably need to find out now is if we are going to get taken over, whether, as bad as it sounds, you talk about Qatari investment, are they doing it for sports washing, in which case they might want to run the team as a football team, or are they doing it for land? I just don't know, and I guess we'll find out. But I'd be very, very surprised if in 2 years' time David Sullivan is still the major shareholder at West Ham. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I agree. Gary, we're going to Nigel last because he's going to disagree.
I look forward to that day when Sullivan is no longer the major shareholder, because it's just been a bane on most of our lives. I just hope that whoever is the majority shareholder, if there is one, if we've got, 3 with 25% plus, Trips, whoever side Trip Smith is on, and then you've got some gold shares left, who they going to vote with. So he might still end up being the majority shareholder.
It'll be
right?
This is the thing. He's being slippery. He's got 25% plus the golds, isn't he?
It may be, but then it depends what you believe about the Golds, in that the kids are not supposed to like Sullivan very much, and even Gold himself was not supposed to like Sullivan very much. So they did business together, but didn't really like each other. So we'll see. But look, it could be there's an investment coming in when this new investor arrives. What is that new money going to do? What's it going to be set aside for? Is it to build a state of the art training, youth development, massive complex like Leicester out in the heart of Las Vegas? It could be something like that, because that's quite an expensive proposition. And if you take land and buildings, all right, the land around Basildon is going to be more of a bargain, I would say.
A little bit cheaper. Yeah,
it could be something like that, or it could be, bringing someone in who has got. Who is, so if it is a Qatari, somebody who is allied to the people who already own parts of that estate, and obviously they've got relationships, and they can take that conversation forward, and manage manage that stadium into ownership, and then all bets are off. Anything could happen after that. But I think we're in a situation at the moment where, Sullivan is in it for himself. Krasinski is definitely in it for himself as just an investor, stroke opportunist, maybe an asset stripper. What's the new person going to be? Just a property magnate, So are we going to have anybody that's got West Ham's best interests at heart? I'm not sure we will.
I don't think so. I think that ship's probably sailed to
I hope he's just packaging it up to sell it and get, someone who wants to run West Ham and wants to turn us into something good, rather than, wouldn't it be nice? We've never had it, I don't think, apart from a brief spell with the Icelandics who were fucking mad. We've not had owners who really wanted to take the club forward.
They were fun though, weren't they? The Icelandics were fun, weren't they? They were.
They were fun for a brief time until the biscuit baron went bust.
I know.
Anyway,
Nigel, over to you. Give me your final thoughts.
Opinion. I think in 10 years' time we'll still be at the London Stadium.
Yeah. Will it be in its current state? Will we have bought it? Will we have done something to it?
I think it will be in its current state. I don't think it will be owned by West Ham. I don't. Why would you? Why? Firstly, if it doesn't matter who you are realistically, why would you want to own it?
Such a good deal and rent.
Possibly, but not as a football stadium, because we've already got the great deal with rent.
No, that's what I'm saying to you. I'm agreeing with you. Why would you?
Because say you come in and buy it, and then you got to buy out all the loan. You got to buy out UK Athletics. You got to buy out Delaware North. You got to buy out all these onerous contracts.
Because Delaware North have got a ridiculously long contract as well.
Can I just say on this? Sorry, just to check. There is nothing to say, and I hear all this. Delaware North is a good reason not to do it. There's nothing to stop whoever comes in saying to Delaware North, "Oh, by the way, you can have the catering contract at the new stadium."
No, that's true. But right. So they've got to buy West Ham. So let's say they're going to buy West Ham. How much to buy West Ham? All of it?
800.
800.
Yeah,
right. So we go 800 million. Now they're going to buy the stadium. What are they buying the stadium for?
£1.
Really?
Yeah.
£1? What? Well, so they're going to give them land worth £3 billion.
It's enormously loss-making.
It's making losses every year, Nigel.
But you've just said that the land is. So the government are going to go. We're going to give you that.
Yeah, but they can't do anything for it with it for like fucking 100 years.
So what if the
stadium,
government said, "All right, we'll
not the
sell
land.
you the stadium for £1, but the land it sits on, what are they going to pay for?"
The thing is, there's all these. The government have got to pay big penalties to West Ham if they want to do anything. So actually, even by giving the land away for free, the government are actually saving themselves not only the losses every year, but having to pay West Ham compensation.
So it ain't just as cut and dried as that. So, and also you're going to go out and build another 60,000 seater stadium when you bought West Ham, who have still got 90 odd years left in a 60,000 seater stadium, and you're going to spend even more money to build that seater stadium somewhere else.
This is why they could be bringing the Qataris in, because Nigel, if they were, say for instance, the Qatari came in, he ain't spending 800 million on the club because he's only buying he's buying 25% of it. You buy the stadium for a fucking £1 or whatever it is. Let's say 50 million. So say you buy the stadium for 50 million, then you build another stadium somewhere else in the arse end of Essex for what, £500 million?
Yep.
Now all of a sudden you probably spent £1 billion. Now you've got land worth about 3 billion, 4 billion, and all everything that goes with it. So all of the development.
So the government are going to sell them land worth 3 billion for 50 million.
Yeah, but they can't do anything with it. It's literally they physically can't do anything with that land because West Ham have got this lease on the stadium. We've got them by the bollocks. There's nothing they can do.
Yeah, the government can't build on it without our agreement.
They can't.
And they would have to compensate us. So any deal has to involve West Ham. The government can't just say, right, we're going to build.
Wouldn't it be cheaper then for the government to ship us out, knock the stadium down, and sell the land?
Well, they again, no, possibly not, because and this is what I heard. No, this is what I heard. We determined. Why
can't the government behave like the Qataris then? Why has the Qataris got to come in and pay £1 for this land?
Apparently,
the thing is, didn't you say, Gonzo, that could happen? So, say for instance, the government could say, look, we're going to build you a club, we're going to build you a stadium elsewhere and pay us off that way and move us out. I suppose that could happen.
But we determine the level of compensation.
We would have to agree to it.
We have to agree to it. That the whole big thing is West Ham have to agree. So you're assuming that if the Qataris have already bought, let's say it is them, the Qataris have already bought 25% of us. Of course, we're going to agree to it because they're in a decision-making process, and actually we will then decide. But if the government want to do it, we can turn around to the government and say, okay, well, you can move us, but we want £1 billion. And I'm using a ridiculous example there, but we can pretty much do what we want. I do remember, and I'm going to say this. I remember speaking with Karen Brady. And there are other people speaking to her as well. We had this meeting up at the club, and there were other people that were there, and they were talking about Chelsea wanted to share the London Stadium, and Chelsea had asked, and then there was a few of us in there, and we said to her, what are the chances of them stadium sharing with us? Are you going to do it or not? And she said, look, we have held talks, and the only way we would ever do it is if Chelsea gave us enough money and basically we're going to make Chelsea improve the corporate facilities at the London Stadium, and Chelsea were going to pay for it. So as once Chelsea left, the club could earn more money and the corporate facilities. She didn't make any bones about it. She didn't say we're going to make it better for you guys and all the rest of it. That's how much power they've got over there. And it was basically and in the end, I think in the end, Chelsea didn't want to do it because there was a thing with Earls Court and all sorts of other stuff going on.
Chelsea pitch owners put a block to that.
There you go. And so they didn't want to do it. But West Ham had the veto. That's how much power they got. It wasn't even a London Stadium got to decide if Chelsea came in. West Ham got to decide if Chelsea came in, and then we could have stipulated the terms and how much money they would have paid. And it was quite clever, really, because could West Ham accept money from Chelsea? No, we couldn't, but we could stipulate, well, if you give us twice the corporate footprint at the stadium, then we'll do it. You'd be amazed what she's got tied down contractually, that woman. She's look, she might not be everyone's cup of tea, but she's very, very shrewd contract she's created there.
Well, it sounds like a ridiculous contract for the other party to sign, right?
You're right.
So
right.
I mean,
they've sued
that contract.
But they've sued, haven't they? They've just sued the solicitors.
Well,
successfully just sued the solicitors that advised whoever it was, LS 185.
Just imagine what happened to the man.
That's right.
Just imagine what happened to the man that signed off on that deal.
Boris was definitely in a gentleman's club.
We let him run the country
with someone on his lap when he signed that. 100%.
You know.
Yeah,
Boris just wanted it off the.
He was,
but this is what I mean. This is what I mean by what I said earlier, right? And I've got no doubt about this because look, it doesn't matter what the contract says. Laws are made in Parliament, right? Laws can be made in Parliament.
You can't change contract law.
No. You can't get contract law is revised together with other laws all the time. It's based on precedent, right? It's based on precedent.
They can't do that. They can't do that.
No, but listen. Put this scenario is a scenario. Labour signed this contract, and then the Tories came into power and uncovered this thing that they're paying through the nose for. What do you think the Tories would do?
I think they'd sell it for £1 and blame Labour.
I think they would find a very fucking dirty way to get out of it, and that's what I'm saying. I think Labour will find a dirty way of getting out of it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But no. But I think that's what it will be. I think the change of government will result in somebody washing their hands of it because it's a fucking massive drain and it's an embarrassment.
Well, it's a big fuck up.
They will wash their hands of it. Yeah. Just get rid of it.
Why hasn't the
blame the other government? And blame the other government.
Well, the Labour-run mayor hasn't got the money to do it. I mean, some guys, he can't take on a court case like that. He's funded from central government, right? So he can only pay for what they give him money to do.
He is. He's basically a council. That's what he is. Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
Well, look, there's one more thing I want to talk about before we close this down, right? Yeah. If this mad conspiracy is true, right? If it is true and this does happen. Yeah. Is there anything that we could do collectively as a fan base to stop it? Do you is it what I'm saying to you? Yeah. Could we block it? Could we stop it?
Oh yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, all this sports washing and stuff. I mean, I'm assuming that somebody comes in is bothered about their reputation. I don't think Sullivan. We've seen Sullivan. We've seen him in the face of protests. He's steadfast and he's resolute in the face of protest. He don't care, right? He really doesn't. There may well be others that do and are a bit more bothered about their reputation. If you've got, there's no way that let's say it's Qatari, but it could be Saudi, it could be any one of those. They do not want. They want to be seen to be doing everything for their fan base. Honestly, the stuff that they do to make themselves look kind and benevolent, that's what they do. That's the whole idea of the way they do this sports washing. So I think with that in mind, they're probably not going to want tens of thousands, and it would be tens of thousands of West Ham fans protesting and marching against us, because the thing is, whatever the GSB was, obviously it's not there. They would be added to it. They would be added to the acronym, right? And whoever it would be, he'd have his face up there. Would be Karen Brady and Kretinsky and David Sullivan, and then Sheikh, whoever it is. Yeah. They don't want that kind. They don't want that kind of publicity. So I do think. Yeah, so but I'd be honest with you, Nick. I would also expect a lot of schmoozing to go on before that even happened, and you wouldn't be surprised if they tried to make contact with West Ham fans. Hammers United would be contacted. I'm quite sure about that because they would want to try and see that off at the pass before.
There'll be some amazing CGIs.
There'd be great CGIs, good artist impressions. There'd be another survey that we can figure out with 3 good answers and 1 bad answer.
There will be. I know there really will be. What about you, Nigel? Because obviously you're a man that has experience with one-man protests.
I tell you, I'll pull you up there. There was at least 10 of us, Nick. That's fucking slander. One man protest. There were a few others, and I include my daughter who was 13 at the time. She was involved. If she wanted a kebab after the game, she had to stand there.
No, Nigel was like, "I'll take my daughter with me. They won't punch me then."
Well,
but no. What I'm saying,
well, the funny thing about that is that prior to the move, obviously I was like I was painted as some mentally deranged lemming.
To say that, to be fair,
that wanted to hold the club back to its past and chain us down to our history. And of course,
there's a word for that, isn't there? What's the word? What's the word that they use when somebody who's scared of change and
Luddites?
That's it. Yeah.
I got called everything.
Yeah.
The funny thing is I did get called everything, and the only time I really lost my rag was when a bloke called me a Spurs fan.
That's a
frankly, a few of them called me see you next Tuesday as well, and it never bothered me. But don't call me a Spurs fan. But of course, once 2015 turned up and 2016 turned up and people went into the stadium, you know, one of the most surreal moments ever supporting West Ham was the bloke that thrust a pint of beer in my hand and when I thought you was a bit of a cunt, but you knew what you was talking about and walked off.
Yeah, brilliant. But you absolutely. But the thing is, Nigel, you absolutely fucking did. If we look, I think I'll say the same. Because one other thing that I'll say as well. Are we all in agreement here? Everything that we've had a good 3 years, right? But the last 3 years have been good.
4, Nick.
4 years. No, what I'm saying is we haven't achieved anything now that we couldn't have achieved at Upton Park.
No.
We could have achieved it all at Upton Park. No. So I don't know. I just think if I could go back now, 100%, I would have been there protesting with you. I would be now. I did buy into it. I'm not going to lie. I bought into the fucking CGIs and the dream and moving to the next level. I did buy into it. But I would 100% be there with you now. And I think a lot of fans would, mate. I think they would be.
Do you know, I'll just tell you something now. I went, there was the Great Newham run or something like that. There was like this run. And I went to the stadium. It was the first time you could go and open the stadium. And I take my camera down there and I do a little video. I went there with my son. Okay, so we're going to go and have a look at our new home and all the rest of it. I did my video, went down there with him. And I'm holding the camera. I'm doing like a vlog. And I said, and here we are at the front. And these seats are now, they're going to be pulled forward to the start of to the edge of the pitch. I did my video, went home, uploaded it as you normally do. Started reading the comments, whatever the next day. There was no, that's it, mate. Gonzo, that's as far as the seats go. And I was arguing, no, they're going to go because David Gold.
We've seen it,
you know,
similar distance.
Yeah, so exactly. That's what he was saying. And honestly, the realization in me when enough people then I started checking it out. And funny enough, I spoke to Sean. I said to Sean, is this all these people, these mad people? And he said, no, that is it. They have been pulled forward. I said, but how do you mean they have been pulled forward? So I was that was the point where I knew I'd been duked.
Because it is better now. It is better now. That gap was fucking massive.
Yeah,
it was massive at first.
Realise
it really was.
Me and another person, we put in a freedom of information. This was in 2013 on the LLDC for the plans. Because what happened is that the original one got scuppered. And then West Ham did a big reveal. We had to sign when the first NDAs were brought out. And fans were screaming. We had to sign the NDA. And they revealed to us what the current setup was going to be. And they did a big reveal and they swooned about it. And everybody was looking at it. And one of the directors of West Ham come up to me and said, hey, what do you think about that? And I looked at her and I went, I'll argue a case against that all day long.
Yeah.
And I did. And that was when Karen Brady called for a vote of the fans assembled. There was about 65. I think 55 voted in favour, 8 abstained, 2 voted against, and of which she said that if the 2 voting against, if the stadium was gold-plated and free, those 2 still would have voted no. That's what she wrote about me and another person in The Sun. And I'm quite proud of that because she's right. Because if it was gold-plated and free, I still would have voted No.
Yeah.
Naff,
but of course,
but she's trying to discredit you, isn't she? That's what she's trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I thought was funny was it was a meeting that we would sign NDAs we were not allowed to discuss.
Yeah.
And she puts it in the Sun on Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
but what I'm saying is, Nigel, if it did come to it, I mean, I'll tell you what. Let me ask you this: if this mad conspiracy turned out to be true, and this was the plan, and they were trying to move us out of East London, would you protest again? If it was a proper move, you would. Good.
Yes, because it ain't West Ham if it ain't in. This might sound funny. It ain't West Ham if it ain't in West Ham.
Yeah.
But we did spend 112 years in East Ham. But technically, West Ham was across the road. So I will caveat that if you turned the corner, you were in West Ham. But it ain't West Ham if you're not in West Ham. It's another reason why I struggle with the West Ham ladies team, because they don't play in West Ham. Why are the West Ham ladies team not called Dagenham Ladies? Because they play at Dagenham's ground.
Yeah.
Why is it? Just because you put a West Ham shirt on them, does that make them West Ham? Because this is the difference. Not saying anything, is that West Ham for me ain't just a football team. It's where I was born. Yeah, and it is different for those. I do say this, it is different because and West Ham was born as such to represent that area.
Yeah,
you know, you've been on the walk, you've seen it. I'll take you around the streets where I grew up. I can tell you stories. You know, we went in the park where Thames Ironworks played football, and I threw a boomerang that nearly decapitated the woman.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's why I enjoyed doing those history walks, because it ain't just me giving you the stories of West Ham. It's where I grew up as well. I'm proud of that. So West Ham is a bit different in that it symbolises, and you need to keep. I try and cling as much to that old West Ham that in this money grabbing orientated. Frankly, though, if it goes, it goes, because the West Ham we all knew and love anyway did die in 2016.
Yeah, I think it did, but we are still clinging to it, Nigel. You are still going over there. It is still our connection, even though a portion of it has died. That is, it's part of. Look, I think where you're from is part of your fucking identity as a person. You know, I had pie and mash for dinner today. I live in fucking Enfield. I had pie and mash for dinner today. I just kind of, I'm very proud of being an East Londoner. Don't matter where I live or where I move to. I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm proud of our heritage. And West Ham is a massive connection. It's a massive connection for me. Supporting West Ham. So no, I'm disgusted with myself that I've allowed this to happen and didn't do what you did. I actually am, because it's fucking embarrassing, really, the situation that we're in now. How we all got duped, and I reckon the vast majority did. Well, the vast majority clearly did. We all bought into it. We all bought into that bullshit that they sold us, and we never should have. But I don't think it's too late. I think what we can do is get it back if that does happen again. One other thing that I was going to say, we all know massive sections of fans that walked away when we left Upton Park. We do. Do you think there's any way that you could reel them back in? If say for instance, there was another protest and it was a big movement and it was like everyone was together, we were united again. I know it sounds corny. All of a sudden, West Ham are united again. We're going to try and take our club back. You're not doing this, you bastards. Do you reckon you could reel those fans back in? The true fans?
I think you could. Yeah.
I'm not. Each individual person, I feel, walks away for individual reasons.
Yeah.
And to try and, you know, my mate has not been back since the first season. He came to the first season with me, and he used to stand with me with my flag and everything. And he walked away. He did the first season, and he walked away. Me, you know, I'm addicted to West Ham. I can't walk away. You know, at times I wish I had.
No, same here.
We all are in our own way, aren't we?
Yeah, but we are. That's what it does to you.
I think one thing that would bring maybe some of the old guard back would be if we built a really good quality stadium next to the one that we've got.
I think that's it. It's funny, you know, when you said that, Nick. I've got yes, there's lots of people because I mean we were running a forum long before we started doing video stuff. So you know we sort of seen it all, and I've heard, you know, I had access to a lot of people. But when you were mentioning it, I've got one person in mind, and it's someone I went to school with in Ilford, and I cannot get him to come. He will not come. And to be fair, I've probably not seen. You know, he's a very, very old friend. I'm 50 now, but a very old friend. And I've probably not seen him for 3 years, truth be known. And I say, oh, come on, it'd be good to see you down there. And this is the one time I sort of go up to London because I'm a long way away now. This one time I come up there and let's meet up. He said, I won't go there. I will not go. You know, be great to meet up with you, but I'm not. Perhaps he just don't want to. Perhaps he thinks I'm a see you next Tuesday. You don't want to come, but he won't. And I listened to his reasoning for going, and it just symbolises everything that he feels that he's lost. Because we used to, as kids, we used to get the bus up. That's what we always used to do. And I do wonder, like Gary said there, if it was a purpose-built stadium that had a bit more soul, but I think you'd also need the caring owners as well. I think the whole vibe would need to change around it.
I don't think it can be done in that park, to be honest. I think the problem is as much as the park and the surrounding area as it 7-8 years in, and we've got no supporters club, but don't worry, they're refusing to fade and die.
Yeah.
And we've got, no, I don't know. The pubs are very, they couldn't cope with the amount of people that go, but you got the old-fashioned boozers down in Stratford, I suppose. But there's still a bit of walk away. Acne Wick's a bit poncy, if you ask me, but it's nice enough.
Some of it
but
is.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it every now and then.
I like it, yeah.
But it ain't, for me, it ain't what I would call West Ham, but then again,
it ain't the Black Lion. It ain't the Black Lion.
You've also got those funny boats on the river as well, haven't you?
We got the boats,
got the boats,
Make you seasick.
Yeah.
So and when you talk to people, how many people? I suppose the Hammers chat, the people, the boats, Chris, are probably the same people that've been coming back year after year after year. You got a community there.
That's exactly what you do. What you do have down there is the one thing, and I'm not going to even suggest that it was we planned and we're going to build a community, but it did happen. So yeah, you do have a bunch of regulars. You've got 200-300 regulars who go down there, and you will see the same faces. And that's good though, isn't it? That is good. So that is That is like there's a lot of old West Ham down there. There really is. So there's pockets of it which get going. Is it a boozer? No. Is it Queens or whatever? Is it bowling? No, it's not. But it's something else, and it is. But we always say the worst part of it is that we have a great day. Actually, the worst part of it is when we have to go to the stadium and the 90 minutes, and then actually before and after. We do generally have a really good time, but some of that's the football as well, which I know we're not speaking about today particularly.
But if you was really cynical, when you look at what they've done and the way that they've done it, and the way that they refer to some of the fans as well, and the legacy fans, and they're always trying to bring new people in, it's almost like they want to flush out the old fans and bring a new fan base in.
I think they do. I think they want a set of nodding dogs.
It's almost that's what
Nick,
they
want.
had
to make it work for them. And this is the thing, because at the end of the day, so let's look at it. Upton Park quickly. We had hardcore 21,000 season ticket holders year in, year out. Yeah. You could buy a season ticket any season. The only 2 seasons I knew us to sell out of season tickets were the season after the cup final. The Tevez year, and that was a car crash at the end of the day. And then the last season at Upton Park, the season before the last season, 2014-15, you could still buy a season ticket at Upton Park.
Wow.
Yeah. So all this about it was so hard to get a ticket, rubbish. It weren't.
Yeah, it never was.
You could get tickets for the big games. They were sold out. Yeah, but let's face it, there's only 5 or 6 of them a season. All the rest you could get tickets for.
You are right, because I let my I had one season at Upton Park that I can remember where I didn't have a season ticket. I let it go for financial reasons. Went back the next year, got it straight back, no problems at all.
And that's that's what you could do. It was that easy. So, but we've took that. So they've took that support base. Now, when I was first on the fans things, West Ham's figure was 50,000. The reason why they were happy to move into that 66,000 seater stadium, but have the capacity capped at 52,000 as it was, or 54,000 when we first moved in, was their own studies said we'd get 50,000 going.
Yeah.
The way they marketed and the way they sold it surpassed everything they ever thought. Yeah. They never thought they would sell 50,000 season tickets. They never thought that would happen. And it did because of the aggressive way the people in the sales centre managed to push the +2s and the extras onto those things. And if, without dragging it up, the reason why we have so many empty seats in the stadium can be linked all the way back to 2014-15 in that sales centre and the way they sold the +2s to the people. Don't worry, they're so cheap. If your mate don't come, you can sell it back to the club or you can sell it on or whatever.
See, the thing is, the way that they did that, I know it was all about, we have to sell it. We have to sell out the tickets. But that just fucked up the migration and diluted everyone and just meant everybody was disjointed and moved apart. It would have been so much better if they'd have just try to retain in some way the dynamic that you had at Upton Park in terms of people sitting with the same people sitting where they were before.
They should have insisted upon it. And even if you couldn't, give a big discount for that. That's where your discount goes.
Yeah. The problem with that, Chris, is that, so if you take it, so I actually went with a big group of us that used to sit in the centenary up, or the Trevor Brooking up, or whatever you want to call it. So, but a big group of us, and we stuck together at first. Until I discovered that my mates who actually didn't have season tickets at Upton Park were sitting 25 seats to my right, 4 rows in front of me, and paying £285, where I was paying £500 for exactly the same fucking view. So I was laughing at the bloke to my left because he'd paid £600 because he was a band free. So I was laughing at him, but then my mates were laughing at me because they were paying 200 quid cheaper.
They split us up, We had me, my sister, my cousin. We had a row of about 5 or 6, few people behind. Nick you were in the main stand in that last season.
Yeah, in the last season I was in the West Stand. Yeah,
and so what we tried to do was it was only about 11 or 12 together, and they just said no, can't do that. So we ended up fucking marooned in the upper tier in the corner, and I hated it in that stadium until the last couple of years when finally got reunited with the people we used to stand with.
I mean, our seats the seats at Upton Park in the Bobby Moore that you had for years, was
the ones
that
got are quite similar now.
We sat next to Bill, didn't we? Bill Gardner for absolutely donkey's years.
Yeah. The seats I've got now are quite similar, aren't they? They're probably about 10 meters further out, but there's similar position.
They are.
Yeah, I like it.
Where I sit, if it was at Upton Park, I think I'd be sitting by the Tesco's on Green Street, on Barbican Road. I think
that's actually factual, isn't it? You measured it.
Yeah.
So look, what I am going to do, I'm going to help Nigel out because once he starts talking, you said earlier on you've got to be in bed by 11 because you've got to be up early.
I've got to go to
you got to be in bed. It is 11:05.
Yeah.
So we're all agreed. If this crazy conspiracy comes to a head, we're going to protest.
Yeah.
Yes. We are. We'll do it.
Very much so.
We'll do it.
We'll all have our own different protests for different reasons.
I'll be following you, Nigel. I will. I'll be standing behind Nigel. But,
I'll have that banner. Say no to the London Olympic Stadium, and then I'm thinking, no, and I'll put a cross on it. Say yes. Yeah.
But honestly, this has been a brilliant show. Thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah,
really good,
mate.
really good chat. I enjoyed it. Thanks very much, Gonzo, for coming over, mate.
I loved it, mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Really good. I'm sure everyone knows who Gonzo is anywhere. If you subscribe to us, you should subscribe to him as well. But if you're not, Hammers Chat and Hammers Chat Forum, go over and give him a look and give him a subscribe. Great guys over there. And Nigel, thank you very much. I know you struggled with your travel today. Thanks for making the show, mate. It was really good to talk. It was really good to talk to you, mate. It was. Yeah. Really good to talk to you, but no. So we will leave it at that. Gary, it's been all right. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, all right. Fuck you. Yeah, all right. Okay.
And thanks everyone in the chat. I know we haven't been paying much attention to the chat today. Like I say, we just wanted to concentrate on the show and try and get the points across. So not much interaction today, I'm afraid, but we will get back to that. I hope you all enjoyed it. if you did, or if you want Moyes out, click the thumbs up, as always. And we'll go from there. Right, I've got to find the outro video now. I'm always slow with this one, aren't I? What do you want to go for?
Go for the one that you created.
What one?
The one that you sang.
I've created them all, Gal.
The one that you sang.
How many you got?
I've got fucking loads here. Hang on.
This is when we were going to sign some bloke, Gonzo. Have you seen it?
I've still got it. I don't think I've got it.
You haven't deleted it, have you?
Oh, no, it's here. Here we go.
Yeah.
When you score, you make the West Ham sings. Jota on the wings, Jota, Jota on the wings. Every time you're on the ball, we know it's gonna be a goal. A superstar from Portugal. When you score, you make the West Ham sings. Jota on the wing, Jota, Jota on the wing. Every time you're on the ball, we know it's gonna be a goal. A superstar from Portugal. Da 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 la 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 la. Da 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 dum. La da 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 dum. La da da da.
This song is available for download on Spotify and iTunes. No, it's not really. Welcome to the Sunday Night Talk.